I, nearly adult male, went to therapy when I was a tween. My dad set me down before sending me and told me he was worried about me and our family, that I didn't seem to be taking him remarrying and having siblings well, and that he was worried I would end up isolating myself in the future and hurt my half-siblings when they realized I clearly favored my full-blood siblings over them. He asked me to give therapy a go to see if I could find a way to process Mom not being there, move on to fully accept my half-siblings, and maybe even see my stepmom as something more than his wife. I told him I'd go. The first therapist was a bust. She spent the whole session talking about religion. Dad didn't send me back. The second therapist was different. He saw that therapy wasn't something I was totally comfortable with, and he set me up with a therapy diary. He told me to call it my therapy notebook, my therapy scrapbook, or whatever made it feel the most comfortable for me. But he told me I could write stuff I couldn't express out loud. He also told me I could write something to discuss in future sessions. In early sessions, I wrote a lot about missing my mom and the family we should have, and how things would never be the same. Then after a while, I also wrote down how I felt. Things like my half-siblings could never mean as much to me as my full siblings, because my full siblings and I shared our parents, and there was more than a natural bond. I wrote how I didn't think I would ever love my half-siblings, but I still thought they were part of my family, and I hoped they would have good lives. There were some notes in it about how something happened, and I miss Mom, and I wish my dad's wife and half-siblings could go so we could get Mom back. That was written 3 or 4 times. There was also a page where I talked about how I wanted a tattoo of the family I wanted us to be, and how that wouldn't include my dad's wife or my half-siblings. I did 3 years of therapy. Then it ended, and I threw the diary out. But Dad fished it out of the trash bin and decided to keep it. Then he read it. Then he showed his wife. Then they left it where the kids found it and read it. Now everything has gone crazy. My dad confronted me, and we argued, because he told me I had written some very unfair things. I told him therapy can't always change how you feel, just how you act. He said he didn't send me to therapy to act the part. I told him he was getting off the point and should have never read the diary, shared it, etc. He said that he was my father and he had a right to read it. I told him that the diary was not his business and should never have been family reading. He told me that was a poor point to make when I wrote that my half-siblings were unlovable for simply having the wrong mother. We're not talking now, but he made it clear I was wrong here. Am I the idiot for telling my dad my therapy journal was never meant to be family reading? Not the idiot. The most toxic thing parents do in these situations is share the journal with the kids. It really does nothing good for the family dynamic, especially one the parent so desperately craves to share it with the kids. It would have still been disrespectful for him to read it, as he seems to forget that they were private thoughts. But for him to let the whole family read it is something else entirely. This is a violation of trust, and you are in no way wrong for writing down how you felt. Your dad is a major idiot. If you were to blame for anything, it was for not destroying the book totally. However, your father should have still respected your privacy. Just adding here, I don't think the kids finding the diary was unintentional. Their dad or stepmom must have put it there so the kids would see it and read it. Forcing OP into therapy with specific behavioral goals that he laid out from the beginning. I don't know how actively malicious the dad is, but I'm getting major controlling and manipulative vibes from how OP describes his actions. What a sleaze. OP, your father sent you to therapy to fix you so you'd be and act the way he wanted. Exactly. Oh my God, what the heck? So very sorry you're dealing with this. Now your dad has turned your whole family against you for normal tween blended family feelings. Your dad is the one that needs therapy. Who the heck does this to their child? Everyone else's feelings are more important than yours? Who in their right mind would let everyone read that? Holy cow, what a violation of trust. I can't even imagine. Can you move in with a grandparent or something? This is insane. My sister-in-law is pregnant with their first child, And I get pregnancy is hard, but for the last few weeks, she's been lashing out at my brother nonstop. And you can see he looks visibly stressed out now. She's done it in front of our family and her family. Still, nobody ever defends my brother or says anything to her because they're all so excited about the baby. So they're treating her like a queen who can do no wrong. Now, I love my sister-in-law, and we've been like sisters since we grew up together. So I felt comfortable telling her to stop. I spoke up after she started yelling at my brother for making her into a whale. He kept apologizing to her, and everybody was coddling her and telling her how beautiful she was and how she didn't look big at all. When we were alone, I told her she was behaving unfairly and treating my brother badly and stressing him out. I thought she took it well since she said she knew, but apparently not, since she started crying to my brother. Everybody's treating me like I'm the devil for making her cry. My brother told me to stay out of his marriage and to mind my own business because I didn't understand what she was going through, and he said I was causing her stress. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I felt like she was being mean, which hasn't helped the situation. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I've never seen any friends or family of mine who've had children treat their partner like that while pregnant. She's completely out of line, and your family should be ashamed for treating you like that, for defending your brother, which they also should be doing. Your brothers are spineless for lashing out at you like that. Come on. Verbal abuse is still abuse. If the sister-in-law has done this enough times for OP to be concerned, then yeah, you need to call it out. And it's not like OP did it in front of the whole family. OP waited until they could talk to sister-in-law privately, shared their concerns, and sister-in-law made mountains out of molehills. I'm sorry, but being pregnant doesn't give you a free pass to treat your SO like crap. Oh, he made her a whale? Also, assuming this is a planned pregnancy, he didn't make her do anything. They did it together. Agreed. People seem to forget that it takes two to tango. She's 50% responsible for making herself a whale. I don't think the occasional "you did this" comments are the ends of the world, but if it's an ongoing pattern of lashing out at him in front of you and other people, in my opinion, that's taking it too far. Speaking of which, if she's putting your brother on blast in front of other people, she's the one putting the state of the marriage out there. It's a little rich to let the world know how angry you are with your husband and then cry about relationship privacy when other people comment. So my roommates found out my big secret. I've been renting a house with 3 other girls, Stacy, Lynn, and Rebecca. We're in year 1 of a 2-year lease together and have always gotten along. A few weeks ago, I found some pictures from my wedding, and I was so happy that I posted them. A few hours later, my Facebook notifications were blowing up, and I had several missed calls from my roommates. I didn't realize this, but somehow they didn't know, and they were not happy. I don't understand this. They say that I lied to them by bringing another roommate in and have completely changed the dynamics of the house. I haven't, though. My husband and I got married at 18, before I even started college. For practical reasons, we decided not to live together until I finished school and had the chance to gain some work experience. I've never had him visiting me any more than any other roommate had an overnight guest. I also lived with Stacy and Rebecca during college, and quite honestly, they had men over way more than he was ever there. Even now, while we do spend all of his leaves together and I make trips out as often as possible, it would never be anything that would violate a standard lease. They say it doesn't matter because he had the legal right to live here, and I just blindsided them with that, putting them in an awkward position. Rebecca's parents are mad I was ever living with them because I'm in a different life stage. I didn't. They obviously know he's the only person I have a romantic relationship with. They know I take long trips to see him and talk to him as much as possible. I wear a wedding ring. I just don't make announcements. They're so mad at me, and I don't understand. I'm not different than I was 3 weeks ago. I don't think how I conduct my personal relationships changes anything. Aside from obviously having different men or women around all the time, my life isn't different from theirs. Now they're looking into breaking the lease, and I'm freaking out. Am I really the idiot here? Not the idiot. You didn't keep your husband a secret. They've met him, and they know you travel to see him. You wear a wedding ring. Do you also wear an engagement ring? I imagine your husband wears a wedding ring. What on earth did they think your wedding ring was? They have a brain and can speak. One would think that after all this time, they would have asked why you wear a wedding ring. Why do they think he has a legal right to live there? His name isn't on the lease. He has no more right to live there than their boyfriends do. I think that they've been misinformed that simply because they're married, he has a legal right to live on the property, which is inaccurate. I clear that up with them ASAP. A pretty open secret. They've met him. They wear wedding rings. Who did they think he was? I'm surprised by all the animosity. I kept having to go back and ensure I didn't miss the part where you moved him in. Is it possible they're just hurt because you weren't completely honest with them? It does seem odd. You've never once said, my husband, but I have a coworker who calls her husband Jeff. So I was a little surprised, but her marriage is not my business. Your roommates sound as if they chase drama and are reveling in their outrage and victimhood over this. Kind of ridiculous. The things people get upset about. Geez. I'm male 34, moved in with my girlfriend, soon-to-be fiancé, Cornelia 31. I knew from day one that English wasn't her native language. She's a Polish immigrant, and that she also speaks Polish and Spanish. But I hadn't realized how much those two languages affected her life. I mean, she speaks English on a daily basis and is fluent, and her work life is solely in English, so you can't blame me for not realizing it. We moved in, and suddenly, other languages found their way to creep into our lives. Her Netflix is full of foreign movies, and her music is often foreign. She wants to talk about movies from Poland or Latin America that I have no interest in and don't want to watch with subtitles. I never know what language I'll encounter when I come home. One day she'll watch the news in Spanish. The next it'll be English, only to switch to Polish. It's infuriating. I sat her down and explained to her that it makes me incredibly uncomfortable, that there are a lot of things in our house that I can't understand, and I asked if she could please tone it down. She asked me what I meant, and I explained again that she should listen to the English music and movies and discuss them and watch them together. I expect her to take it on board, listen to me, and try to make me more comfortable in my own house. So you can imagine my surprise when she said, "You've got to be kidding me." I told her that there was nothing inappropriate about my request, and she would be selfish if she continued to do things that make me uncomfortable. For all I know, she could be watching some awful stuff, but I wouldn't know about it because she can just hide it. She basically called me an idiot in more than one language and told me she had to think and went to spend the night with her friend. I said to think carefully because it's a small request and she should be more accommodating instead of alienating me in my own house. Instead, she ignored me and slammed the door to the bedroom to go and pack. Now she's left, and I worry that perhaps she was right. Perhaps I overreacted and should have sucked it up and tried to approach it slowly, one language at a time. Am I the idiot for approaching it so directly? You are the idiot. I am so proud of your girlfriend for not putting up with your insecure, borderline racist BS and just leaving. Good for her. If someone watching the news in Spanish infuriates you, you probably have some sort of personality disorder because that's some antisocial behavior. This controlling BS is the marinara of all red flags. In my own home here is telling. It is also her home, and she deserves to connect with her culture in the comfort of her own home if she has to use English the rest of the time. Sorry you're insecure, OP, but this is just kind of embarrassing. OMG, I love your girlfriend. I hope she pulled out her dictionary and said, "You've got to be kidding," in at least 5 new languages. Dude, really? Your request was wildly out of order and demonstrated a really weird controlling or anxious streak. Were you worried she was watching awful stuff? You aren't ready for this relationship. Get a therapist, apologize to your girlfriend, and find a new place to live. My kindergartner brother doesn't like loud noises. It scares him intensely and will make him hide underneath a table or a bed for hours. We're doing our best, but it's hard. His fear is getting worse. He doesn't have autism or anything like that either. We talked to doctors and stuff about it. We were invited to a dinner, which we went to. Sure, they can be loud, but my brother can't handle regular people's noises. It's the loud, booming sort of sounds that terrify him. Say fireworks, thunder, loud barking, or sometimes when people speak into a mic or something. Well, my dad and some of my uncles and cousins were watching some sports games and got carried away. They screamed when someone scored, and it freaked my brother out so severely that I genuinely thought he was having a seizure or something. He was sitting on one of my cousins, so he was right in the middle of it, and it overstimulated him or something. Dad immediately picked him up and comforted him, and my one uncle rolled his eyes and went, "That's a bit dramatic." Mom tried explaining that he has an issue with loud noises, but my uncle wasn't having it for some reason, and said that it didn't matter, and that the kid made things awkward. Mom said she was sorry, and tried ending the conversation, but my uncle was all like, "Don't take him out of the house if he's going to throw a tantrum over some people cheering. This is the real world, and people don't tolerate kids like they used to." Mom said she wasn't keeping her son inside all day for his and other people's comfort over something uncontrollable, but my uncle wasn't letting it go. He kept calling my parents irresponsible for letting my brother's behavior go on for so long. He said it was making him resent his nephew. I said, "You're 40 years old. Beefing with the little kid? Go home." He immediately said that was rude. He then told my mom that they really were terrible parents, but he shut up and eventually went home with his wife, who lectured me about being disrespectful as well. Everyone else was like, "It's okay, we understand." But my grandma yelled at me later and told me that I'm not allowed to talk to my uncle like that. Apparently I'm stupid, because we all know my uncle isn't good at putting himself in other people's shoes. I should have been the bigger person. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your uncle is an idiot, and there's nothing wrong with sticking up for your brother and saying what you said. He should stay home if he can't handle not shouting for a couple of hours to avoid upsetting a literal child. Your grandmother's mistaken. Clearly, you can't talk to your uncle that way. I can tell you can because you did. Also, we all know my uncle isn't good at putting himself in other people's shoes. Yeah, there's a term for that. It's called being a self-centered idiot. Wait, your grandmother defended her 40-year-old son's idiosyncrasies, but won't defend her young grandson's? That's so screwed up. Also, your uncle, a 40-year-old adult, isn't good at putting himself in other people's shoes? Still, he basically is expecting a young child to do that and not react according to his own instincts when it's inconvenient for your uncle. And your parents let him call them names and criticize their parenting? Is he a billionaire or something? And there's hope of a windfall, because I would never let this jerk behave this way in my home. Keep cutting him down until he either learns to empathize or learns to keep quiet. And you can tell your grandma that too. Good on you for standing up for your little brother. Maybe he's neurodivergent in a different way. It's not uncommon for kids not to show more traits until they're older with autism. Not saying he definitely is, but I also wouldn't write it off entirely. It might well be PTSD, a reaction to something that happened to him, instead of a neurodivergent type of thing. But it's hard to exactly pinpoint what the issue is. Anyway, there's no point in being the bigger person to someone who's trying to shame a child.